Hello everybody, I'm Jack and this is Raw Tropical Living. Thanks for joining me today. Hope you all had a really nice weekend. It was a lovely weekend here, Sunday especially. Woke up to clear blue skies and 52 degrees. First real fall morning of the year so far. So that was really nice, and yeah, taking a lazy Sunday here, puttering around the house, doing a little cleaning here and there, still healing a little bit, still a little sore. But today I wanted to share with you kitchen basics for a raw food diet on a budget. Guys, I do videos every day, so if you haven't already done it, please go down there and hit the subscribe button now. And then immediately click on the little bell and check send notifications so you'll stay subscribed to the channel. I always see you see comments sometime, and you see kind of that Vitamix envy. People that don't have Vitamixes can be kind of angry about Vitamixes, and I've seen that in threads. Well, it's all expensive. Not everybody can afford a Vitamix. And hey, fair enough. I didn't have a Vitamix until 2 years ago, but the fact that you can't have a Vitamix or you can't have all the expensive equipment you might see in videos and just out there does not mean you can't do this lifestyle, and does not mean you can't do this lifestyle really well. It's not about the tools. It's not about the tools. It's all within you. It's all within you. If you're like kind of blaming it on your kitchen, you might want to evaluate a little bit more. I'm going to start with the absolute basic here that if you've almost got to have, unless you're just going to bite and eat fruit, just take bites out of fruit and eat it all the time. Get yourself a knife. Get yourself a good knife. Now, when I say a good knife, I'm not talking about in that range like chefs would be talking about, where we're up there in the $80, $90, $100 or more. This is a Farberware from Walmart. $12, $11, $12, something like that. I use this. This is basically, I got a smaller version of this, but I pretty much use this one knife for everything. It's sharp. It keeps a good edge to it. So I kind of feel like that it's definitely worth the money. I mean, you can get away. I mean, you can get a cutting knife for cheaper. You can probably get a cutting knife for $3 or $4, but I would really advise putting a little bit and get yourself at least, a halfway decent knife. I mean, I can tell the difference when I'm cutting mangoes or whatever, taking the skin off. You can definitely tell the difference. So get yourself a knife. That's a good one to have. All right, the only thing I don't have a visual aid for here is a blender because I've got the Vitamix. So we're just gonna pretend I'm holding a cheapo blender here. $35 cheapo blender, Oster, Black & Decker. I'm partial to Black & Decker brand, although I haven't had a Black & Decker blender. But $35. It'll pretty much do everything you want it to do up to a certain point, and I'll get to that in just a minute. It blends. Yes, you're not going to make the super smooth, creamy, necessarily get all the textures and things you do from making recipes in a Vitamix, but it gets you by. And once again, I did this lifestyle for at least, I sometimes forget when I got things. I did this lifestyle for at least 3 years, I think maybe 4 years. No, probably like 3 years, 3.5 years, with just a cheap blender in Costa Rica. And I beat that thing up, but it worked. Now, the reason I say you can get away with a cheap blender is if you're not, if you're only spending $35 on a blender, you can afford to spend a little bit more money in your kitchen. The next thing I would highly, highly, highly recommend getting, if you're on a budget, is food processor. Because if you've got a $35, and incidentally, this is a Black & Decker food processor, and it is, I think it was approximately 35 bucks too. So if you spent $35 on a blender, you get a $35 food processor, you're $70 in. And that food processor will make up the slack. Like I say, I didn't even start doing this till not too long ago, but I've started making ice cream in my food processor. And I'm going to tell you honestly, and you've seen my videos before, and some of you've probably followed me on Instagram. I make some kick-ass ice cream in the Vitamix, but the texture is absolutely the best in this $35 Black & Decker machine. So any of y'all out there that that don't make very good in ice cream, and it's also very easy. It doesn't take as much skills. It took me a little bit longer to get the consistency I liked in the Vitamix experimenting than it did in the food processor. So food processor is an excellent thing to have in your kitchen. All right, you see people having all these things called zoodles and koodles. Oh my, what is that? And that is just something to spiralize with. I've had this little, I think this is actually the second one I've had. I think I either gave the first one away or lost it or something, but this is the second Vegetti I've had. Now, they're selling them more and more places now. I know they sell them at Bed Bath & Beyond, but I actually saw one at, where did I see it? At Walmart the other day, and it's a lot less than what I paid for it. It was, I think, $9.99 or whatever. And this will get you there. You can make your your pasta dishes, your mock pasta dishes, and what have you. One thing I'll show you. Now I've got a cucumber. Sometimes with zucchini, you are limited by size, or that was more of a thing when I was in Costa Rica. Sometimes there were things I wanted to spiralize that were a little bit too big for this, and it would be nice to have the handheld one, but all in all, another great tool right there. Another one that I have that you guys I know have seen, probably last winter, is, man, I'm Black & Decker all the way, aren't I? This is a Black & Decker orange juicer too. I picked this up last winter. I think I picked it up around Christmas or maybe the first of the year. I want to say that I'm going to actually, just to make sure I'm not exaggerating how low, I'm going to say it was $20, but for some reason in my head I want to say it was less than that. I want to say this little machine was about $15. So let's say you added all that up. Okay, so you've had the $35 blender. You get a $35 food processor, that's $70. You get one of these, that's $80. You get the juicer, that would be $95. 105, 107, bing, bang, boom. You've got all those things right there for just a little bit over $100. And you got to admit, that's not terrible when you consider that will be probably what you're using every day. I mean, I look right here, oh, and a cutting board. But you could always just cut on your countertop if you're not real particular about having little nicks there, but a cutting board. But this is basically it right here. You could do the whole lifestyle with it, with nothing else other than this. And I'm not going to lie to you, it is really nice. You know, that Vitamix does things like, you know, when I'm making soups, and I do really, the one thing I enjoy the most of all in my Vitamix that wasn't good in any other blender was smoothies with kale in it. It just really blends that kale up really good. But other than that, you don't have to have all the fancy toys. Yeah, I know sometimes there can be envy when you see all these recipes out there and the recipes call for a dehydrator. I do miss my dehydrator, although it's not a necessity. I gotta be honest with you, maybe if you lived in certain areas just so you could do little tricks in the winter, you could call it a semi-necessity, but no, I can't call the food processor a necessity. Sure would like to have it again though, and I will have it again when the money gets a little bit better, but right now, it would just be something that I made. It would not be part of my day-to-day, not part of my how I eat on a regular basis. In other words, the dehydrator for me was mostly for fun, was mostly for making every once in a while things, but they are good and they can help you a lot. I'm kind of going back, it's almost like I'm debating myself there. I don't necessarily need to buy it, but I'm not throwing shade at it either, because there's a lot of things you can do to keep yourself on your raw vegan path with one. But today we're talking about budget stuff. So when you're talking about something that's, you know, several $100s or a couple of hundred on down. It's funny with Amazon and all these things, you see like every item you look at these days has such a drastic range of prices. You're like, well, what's the real value for that? But anyhow, it just all brings it back. That's just yet another excuse. When people say this lifestyle is too expensive. Okay, maybe, and hey, I'll play devil's advocate against myself. Maybe this lifestyle is too expensive if you're trying to be a purist and you're not in the best area. If you put the pressure on yourself, you got to be 100% raw all the time. No, you may not survive on this, but otherwise, you know, it's just all about eating fruits and vegetables. Don't let the equipment trip you up. Don't let anything trip you up. You can figure out a way to do it. Anyhow, hope you guys enjoyed this one today. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Peace.